We will dive deep and fly high with this one, as we can sense such a wonderful momentum for this specific information to sink in on a deeper level for all of you, where you are right now. In doing so, we shall look at this idea in several ways and shine a light on it, so to speak, from several angles. Now, regarding your question, yes, you create all that you observe in your reality, but this creation process unfolds mostly unregistered by the persona self. In other words, you create this from a much grander perspective that goes far beyond the conscious input of the persona mind. And then from that level, these ideas are manifested, allowed, and invited into what you call your persona mind's reality to play with these symbols and these ideas that you call your circumstances to get to know yourself better, which may then eventually result in the deeper understanding that all of these segments are indeed part of your greater self. Now, the question whether you will shift altogether into the direction of a manifested version of an unpreferred reality, once you put your attention on it, depends on several aspects, which we will break down for you here. Allowing your mind to observe and explore a new idea that might be of a potentially lower energy frequency, first of all gives you the opportunity to consciously realize that the energy of the idea you are now entertaining is indeed not in alignment with your natural state of being. In other words, it may help you fine-tune a grander understanding of yourself in the recognition of your preferences, so that you can and may act upon those preferences with newly gained focus and passion. Now, that alone is something many people on your earth are still in the process of realizing. So in that sense, yes, it can be seen as a tool for practice in that way. The friction or resistance, whatever you wish to call it, that you feel, can also be seen as the contrast in your painting. The dark helps you recognize the brightness of the light, and this adds to the deepening of your life experiences. The mind-blowing precision with which you get to navigate in this realm you call the physical is a precious and unique gift, but it would not nearly be that precious to you if there was not the constant balancing act that invited you to reach deeper, stretch further, and go beyond that what you already know to be true. You are an explorer. You are bright, enthusiastic adventurers on a quest for ultimate you-ness. And so little bits and pieces of not you-ness along the way encourage you to focus, to go beyond, and to truly get the tangible experience that you call expansion. You were all naturally wired to seek after this idea, even though it may translate in different ways for different people. The fundament is the same. So you will observe others doing the same thing, as you have agreed to live in a society where all of you are using this idea of shifting and sorting throughout an infinite amount of options to get to a deeper understanding of your true natural self. This is a very efficient way of exploring, as in your self-created experience of this particularly multifaceted dance, you don't just expand alone, but you expand your understanding of what you truly are together. There are facets of your society dancing with you, and some are standing by the sideline from your perspective, that is. And then there is everything imaginable in between. And all of it fluctuates as you evolve, resulting in quite an intriguing dance indeed. And so you have created the idea of being part of a society in this lifetime, and you get to ride the wave of momentum, whilst you all together explore this dance through the infinite amount of versions of yourselves as you create them along the way. Now, you are the creator of your reality, and you will continue to allow into manifestation versions of reality which match with your personal energy vibration in any given here and now. And whatever these versions of reality look like, if you choose to, they can always be used to benefit you in your journey of expansion. In other words, your reality in every single here and now contains possibilities for ongoing expansion, possibilities to get to know yourself better, to fine-tune your awareness. This is always the case, no matter in what dimension you are focused. Even though in some of these dimensions, such as your own, you can use your free will to choose to believe that this is not the case. And you could probably come up with an example of circumstances that to you, depending on your personal belief system, contains no room for expansion or growth. And if this is what you choose to believe to be true, then you will experience these circumstances as such. But we are here to remind you, there is always room for growth. If only by letting you know that you may wish to leave a certain set of circumstances behind, so that you can grow from a newly found point of view from here on. Everything is connected, and in fact all is one. Nothing stands alone or is separated from any quote-unquote rest. Therefore, if you exist, you are part of all that is, and so you and every single moment that you find yourself focused on in any given here and now must contain access to all of that. For you are all of that eventually. And you, just like us in your own way, are in the process of remembering this now. This ability to remember, options for you to remember this, are neatly tucked away in every single here and now moment. You may not always be aware of them, but they are there. So does this mean that everything you observe in your reality needs to be taken personal? Not at all. You already know that you can walk through a supermarket and look at 10 boxes of cereals, whilst you end up buying only one. Now, have all the ingredients in all of those other boxes affected you somehow? Did simply looking at them affect you as if you had eaten them? Do they now all need thorough investigation and analysis of their exact purpose in your reality? Does every random person that walked past you as you were checking out the cereals needs to be questioned? No, they don't, unless you choose to, of course, as believing that, too, would be a valid path of exploration. But generally, these types of manifestations simply show you the incredibly rich and abundant nature of your reality, the endless possibilities, the many ways wherein you can choose to explore, develop, create, are being reflected to you by this, and many other aspects in your world are simply present in order to help you fine-tune your own preferences. The simple fact remains that if there weren't that many boxes of cereal in this example, you would have had an entirely different experience of allowing yourself to make a choice between them. So they all together, as many translators of one idea, allowed you to choose. And for this you needed the idea of a multitude of options available. Now, deciding that you feel it is absolute nonsense to have a dozen different options for your cereal breakfast is a valid way to respond to this manifestation too. And maybe one person, as a result of seeing this type of manifestation in their reality, will start to study organic farming and find a higher level of simplicity serves them better in their lives. Still, that path might not have been inspiring to them if there wasn't a seeming overload of more processed nourishment options present for them there to begin with. You can look at your reality and the many options, but most certainly also the many opinions that are being offered to you in it from that perspective, as neutral ingredients that line up in such a way that you can take something from it if you so desire. And if chosen from a balanced and joyful state, this may even assist you to potentially help inspire others in their lives. Just remember, though it may not be directly related to your path of exploration, as long as you are able to see something or connect to something in your personal observation of reality, it still has some degree of relevancy, if only to help you realize that you can decide for yourself that it has no relevance for you, where you understand yourself to be right now. Now, don't misinterpret this idea of certain circumstances being relevant for you and others not so much as some type of punishment and reward system, because it doesn't work that way. Remember, room for growth is equally accessible in all of these circumstances, and the level of relevancy is still eventually decided upon by you, the creator of the reality. This is more a like attracts like type of situation. As we've said before, there is no quote-unquote built-in meaning to your circumstances. Circumstances are the neutral props that you get to play around with on the stage that you call your life. They only gain a specific meaning once you have subscribed that meaning onto them. So, if you find yourself with chaos and destruction all around you, then this simply means that if you choose to, you can use even these ingredients in the process of getting to know yourself better, and you will benefit from it. Realize that there is a difference between what may be wanted and what may be relevant for you. That which is relevant will be created from the level of the higher self that knows what it is that you need for your personal expansion. And this may or may not take into the equation some, if not all, of the ingredients of what it is that you say you want, which are the ideas of your persona point of view. So, for those of you who would like to always get what they want from here on forward, the most efficient way to quote-unquote get that is by simply always wanting what it is that you understand you need, and you'll have it. Also, we are adding this for people who are still in a state of disbelief of the here and now that you have all collectively co-created on Earth, looking at your COVID-19 storyline. It is a misunderstanding that those you call quote-unquote enlightened people would simply not shift to a timeline that might be looked at as chaotic and or challenging. The teacher you refer to as Jesus, for one, showed you this clearly, as he could have, but certainly did not, avoid his part in the story, where the idea of a certain aspect of his persona self got crucified by the people. Now, his suffering wasn't there to show you that good guys get punished. It was there to show you that he, as a person, could see through and beyond even the most extreme circumstances without losing his balance nor his faith in the people around him, forgiving even those who nailed him to the cross. And the reason you all, through space and time, have co-created that particular storyline to seem that extreme is because otherwise the rest of the world would simply not have remembered. Now, what we invite you to remember now is that this here and now, with what's going on this day and age on your planet, is just as potent a storyline. But this time you are connected in ways that were unimaginable back then. And you can walk the same path of transformation that among many, many other teachers, Yeshua showed you in his own way, of becoming your true and natural self. You can now walk that path simultaneously as an individual and as a collective, and the potential impact of that is unprecedented. Most of you, passionate students and quote-unquote woke teachers, as you say, we do love to use a pinch of your slang now and then, actually aimed to deliberately be present in these highly transformative times. Not by leading an army, but by being present and by showing another way. All people on your version of Earth wished to be here during these interesting times of transition because whether you would evolve in such a way as to act upon this deeper knowing or not so much. On that level, all of you knew. This is when they could be most of service. Ride that wave and be the change that so many on your earth today have been asking for energetically throughout what you call your past. There is an infinite amount of possible realities available to you in every single here and now. The amount of probable realities will usually be somewhat limited compared to that. This is something you create to be this way on purpose, to increase the excitement and joy that comes with transforming any type of inner resistance, and that practically, at least for most of you, where you are right now in your evolution, assists your rational minds to continue to be able to make some sense out of all that you now call your reality and the way it appears to be unfolding around you. Now, this particular agreement that you made with yourselves is beginning to loosen up a little bit, allowing more and more possible realities to become probable for you. And this is why it is so important to remain in alignment in your exploration of any of them. Now, anyone will manifest from their own personal point of attraction only, even if it seems as if you are manifesting something with an entire planet, simply to make it available to yourself, to have the experience of creating something with an entire planet, then you are manifesting the idea of needing a storyline in the background that gives you the idea of experiencing, being part of an entire collective, creating a specific scenario in a certain way. Again, just like observing the wider range of cereals available in the supermarket, even the presence of your entire collective can be looked at as a certain prop for you to play with. Your reality is like a pile of slightly transparent carpets overlapping, and you can hop from one carpet to the other and pick new threads to follow, new storylines to focus on in every single here and now. But none of these threads pull you in or reject you. In other words, they have no power over you. You decide what to focus on, and it is in your response by what you choose to do with these ideas and circumstances that will then open up a whole new set of perspectives for you, a whole new pile of carpets with yet new ideas and circumstances to be explored. And the more you allow yourself to do this consciously, the more momentum you will begin to allow in, shifting your perspective automatically into the direction of your preferred reality. And as you allow yourself to consciously create more of this momentum, the more you will loosen up the fabric of the quote-unquote old carpets that you were previously focused on, so that the momentum you once may have had in that direction can eventually begin to diminish. Now realize that this is not your goal. It doesn't help you to make this your goal. This disappearing of the no longer relevant aspects of your world will be the automatic side effect of you following your highest excitement and the rest of the formula that we've shared so many times before. And as such, we recommend you just let yourself be surprised by what brand new version of Earth may come into your awareness. Don't think about it, and certainly don't strive for unpreferred situations to now quickly go away, as you in doing so would only paradoxically bind yourself to these ideas yet again, allowing them to actually linger around in your awareness longer. Now, look at it this way if you will. You are in the center of your perspective of reality, and many versions of probable realities are stretching out in front and behind of you. Now, as we said, usually your focus has been trained to be aware of a relatively limited percentage of these options. Still, they are all there, and every single one responds to your self-chosen beliefs and assumptions, your attitude and actions, as it is from your state of being that you allow these options to appear more clearly to you. So, coming from a lower energy frequency, you will become more abundantly aware of probable realities that contain circumstances that will reflect that energy frequency back to you. And coming from a higher energy frequency, you will become aware of more probable realities that contain circumstances which reflect to you the idea of those higher energy frequencies. Not that one or the other is better or worse within all that is, they are all valid pathways. Have this be at the fundamental understanding of what we will explain to you next, and you will free yourself from a possible fear of getting lost in any of this. Now, as we explained to one of you in the previous transmission called 2020 Unfolding, in your perception of what you call your reality, you always have and will continue to show yourself little previews of what is possible for you in your reality. Think of these as energetic sneak previews, tiny bridges between where you believe yourself to be right now and what might be lying ahead. These may not come in the form of a literal example always, but they can be. Remember, there is only here and now, so everything in one way or another is already encapsulated in the prism of your reality, hiding somewhere in the details. Now, all of these little previews may seem invisible for those of you who have maybe been trained to look, but do not remember how to see. Yet they also may grow increasingly apparent for those who choose to take notice as they tune in intuitively with the synchronicities that reveal these little nuances to them. We spoke about how many of you now feel as if you were suddenly catapulted into some type of a movie, as a lot of filmic aspects are now suddenly playing out in quote-unquote real life as you perceive it around you. This is no weird reference at all, and even just that idea already reveals the following to all of you who wish to look at it that way. If this is in fact a type of movie, then there must be a storyline, a certain logic or a script behind it. And by diving deep within, we know that you may find that script indeed, and remember that behind all of these facades, you were the director all along. Now, these little previews may come in a bit of a jumble as you are touching on a lot of topics all at once now, as also mentioned in 2020 Unfolding. Some of you may have what seem to be flashbacks from parallel lives in war zones, and yet others are cross-connecting to what they refer to as future selves that inspire them to act from their hearts, triggering in them feelings of bliss, excitement, with perhaps surges of extra energy, making them want to act in a way that benefits others more now than ever before in their entire lives. An energy with which they may be surprising themselves. Yet others feel drawn to nature or keep seeing subtle synchronicities and the acceleration of these around them. Hear word of a financial new system, or on the other end of the scale about some kind of new world order. Now all of these little fragments received by you flow from your own unconditionally loving source energy, and without judgment this energy flows through whatever filters you may have installed in your set of self-chosen beliefs, naturally accelerating and lifting to the surface whatever little hiding belief may still be out of alignment with your true natural state of being. And in this way, the greater you assist your persona self in becoming more aware and in discovering the relationship between your beliefs and the quote-unquote next overall movie scene, so to speak. As usual, your beliefs will automatically align you with elements such as scientific data or people's whispers on the street that will appear to underline the belief in question. In other words, and we've mentioned this before, that is what is actually meant by these famous words, "Those who seek shall find." This refers to your innate power to create worlds and to the idea that these worlds will reflect back to you what you believed to be possible or probable for you or anybody else, as such is the nature of your reality. It mirrors. Where you are now in your space-time reality, more now than ever before in your currently understood history, even if two people are seeking proof for two entirely different points of view, both will find plenty material to underline their own case, because they are both speaking from their own version of Earth, from their own genuine perspective, following the red thread of their own creation power, bundled like a laser in their focus upon the subject of their passion, interest, or perhaps their concern. And so, how to use your natural talent for creating worlds from a more conscious point of view. So when you ask us, by focusing on the idea of an unwanted reality, do I automatically shift into the direction of it? We would say maybe, maybe not, depending on how you choose to respond to this idea within yourself, and outwardly in conversations with others, or in how you choose to share the news yourself on social media, for instance. So depending on from what specific energy frequency you are investigating this idea, so to speak, you may draw a version of the idea into the probability range for you, or actually detach from it further. So it is recommended to remain conscious of your motivation in looking into such ideas. In your every here and now moment, are you looking for evidence? Are you looking to see what it may reflect back to you? Are you informing yourself out of fear or from curiosity? Are you coming from love for the subject because it excites you? Be honest here, because this will literally make all the difference in the world. No pun intended this time. Example: the first time a person hears a negative idea, and by negative we mostly mean an idea that holds the energy frequency of separation. The first time they hear this idea, it may shock them, and they may feel overwhelmed and not know what to do with it. But then, after taking a little distance from it and by doing some genuine self-investigation as to why it is that this idea shocked them to such a degree, they may come to the conclusion that they themselves still contained a level of negative judgment that made the mind susceptible to resonate with the negative idea to begin with. And so they let it quote-unquote get to them, as you say, as they basically just started resonating completely from the fear-based belief that was already within them, as it got triggered by the suggestion of the negative idea that was offered to them from the quote-unquote outside. But you see, it wouldn't have been offered to them if for some reason this energy frequency wasn't still active within them. So they got it, they got this reflection, so that they could clean it up. Now, in discovering the fear-based belief, this person may simply get to the conclusion that this is an aspect they no longer wish to quote-unquote feed within themselves, and they may replace it by a better feeling belief. When done with conviction, this will allow the person to immediately drop any type of obsession with the negative idea. Even if previously this idea seemed to have such a quote-unquote strange power over them, this was just a result, the natural result, of them attempting to alter it by searching for and applying quote-unquote outside arguments instead of using their inner knowing. After transforming themselves, this idea has no attraction to them anymore, and they will have detached from identifying with it in one way or another. Now, they can fully embrace the knowing that this idea simply is not in alignment with who they understand themselves to be at that point in time. In this example, actually looking at the negative idea and then taking it quote-unquote within for further examination helps the person to get a grip on it by looking at why it resonated with them in the first place. And this is the magical part. Now they've allowed themselves to transform this energy frequency. And it left them feeling more self-empowered and at ease than they were before being confronted by the so-called negative idea, which then turns its entire presence in their world into a positive event. As we've said before, what you put out is what you get back. So if you decide to work in a positive manner with whatever upsets you initially, you may find yourself able to use it in ways you could have never imagined. Now again, this doesn't mean you're obligated to turn every single lower energy frequency news snippet you can get your hands on inside out and upside down. On the contrary, as you've allowed yourself to transform from within what may have been triggered by a few of such messages, you may find yourself able to allow more and more of these become irrelevant to you. They won't trigger you negatively. They will just fly by you like the bullets flew by Nemo in the movie that you called The Matrix. And if any such message holds even the slightest bit of actual relevant information for you, you will be able to distract just that from it and ignore the rest. And you will have cracked your own code or set yourself free. Now, in this last example, being confronted by a negative idea has eventually served the observer to transform a fear-based belief into a belief that served them. And in doing so, on a non-physical level, they've quote-unquote shifted away from a whole series of probable unpreferred events that stretch both into their possible past and future simultaneously. Or better put, they will at least have greatly loosened the probability ranges of these events for themselves. And this illustrates exactly what we mean when we say you create the past and the future from the now. You are the one that decides into what direction you will move quote-unquote next, linearly speaking, which then automatically alters where you think you have quote-unquote been. All these ideas that you call the past and the future will simply change along with you. And since you are a new person in every single here and now, you are a new person with a new past and a new future. Look at it like a train changing tracks. Right after the change, now what track is right behind the train? You may think it should be the original track, but it has just shifted to another altogether. To take this step a little further, imagine a rotating plateau for trains to shift direction on. Using this rotation device, the train could choose from an entire series of train tracks, all originating from the same spot. Linearly looking at this, all of these tracks will contain the idea of a past and the idea of a future. In other words, a direction to go into and a direction to move away from, looking at this from the perspective of the train, that is. Yet, since there is only here and now, all of them simultaneously coexist, and all of them can be accessed by you through the center point of the rotation device or your personal point of view. So, as you move your essential source energy through new points of view, you automatically disconnect from other, what you would call previous scenarios, and connect to new ones, billions of times per second. As you have an idea, the event of that idea is quote-unquote yet to come, or in the future, as you say. It is there, quote-unquote, as a possible reality. And as you act upon it further, coming from a joyful or curious state of being, following your highest excitement, without pushing or pulling and without any insistence as to what the outcome ought to look like, you may allow the idea to shift from a possible into a probable reality. And then, all of a sudden, it may manifest. It is just there. Your idea seems to have solidified, and now you are experiencing it in real life. But really, you just shifted your focus, and with that, you solidified yourself into a version of you that was already experiencing that reality. You changed direction on your own inner and inner dimensional train tracks. Now remember what we said about you giving yourself a little sneak peek of what might be within the range of possible and probable future scenarios? Imagine your whole life as a big multidimensional railroad with an infinite amount of tracks. In our example, the rotating plateau for the train illustrates your personal focus point. Yet the circle around it doesn't contain enough tracks to fully represent the grandness of the idea of infinite possibilities. So what if, in your mind, you could just stretch these train tracks out in both directions, not just left and right, but even up and down, and then tilt them slightly. And now, put that into motion, and you would see that, yes, this is no longer a circle. You are looking at a spiral, infinitely spiraling up and infinitely spiraling down from where you thought you were located at. Here you are at the heart of what appears your own DNA, which literally mirrors the fundamental structure of your multidimensional reality as reflected into matter. Now, as you move along through the many frames in the movie of your life, you will constantly be offered new ideas, new flavors, new steps on the ladder, and all of them have their own energy frequency, their own validity and relevance, if only to allow you to decide they are no longer relevant for you, so that you can let them go. And as you move through all of these options throughout your life, your DNA changes, just like the train changing tracks in a very personal manner. In its most basic levels, this is what, by now, has been recognized by our scientists as the idea of what you now call your epigenetics. But what we are referring to here, though, stretches beyond that even, and the greater part of these changes play out in the non-physical, as it is on this energetic layer, or in the blueprint level, if you will, that you begin to decide what particular scenarios might serve you next on your personal path of expansion. And these little previews that you keep sending yourself of future versions of reality, this is how you quote-unquote check in with yourself first, before any aspect of them actually fully manifests. It is as if you are constantly double-checking with yourself. Are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure you want this? And then eventually a version of that will solidify or seem to solidify as you have shifted yourself into that particular timeline. Now, like we said, we have spoken about the ways wherein this may occur. For some, these options come through dreams, the little sneak previews we mean, little intuitive nudges, images in books, a movie, something a random stranger said to you on the street, or the name mentioned by the person that dialed the wrong number, a thought you had in passing a building, a picture you saw in a magazine or on a billboard next to the road, a conversation you had with a friend, and so on and so on. All of these things contain their own energy frequency, and the way you choose to respond to them makes you change tracks again and again and again to new options, new steps on the ladder. This time, fine-tuned even more perfectly to that version of you that you are right now. So every time you observe something in your reality that you like, that makes you feel enthusiasm, that has your passion, use that powerful laser beam of your inner focus to amplify and accelerate the energy frequency of that idea, and see how large you can build this before you feel your focus sliding, and if it does, just let it go. Now, as you build it, so to speak, see if you can introduce new storylines with your imagination that quote-unquote click in with the little preview event that you had sent yourself. For instance, you sit by yourself in a park for a moment, enjoying the sunshine, and a woman comes up who is walking her dogs. She starts throwing the ball and the dogs start running after it. Now let's say you like dogs and you enjoy this scene. Then you could start from there by amplifying your gratitude for the moment and the way it is unfolding right there and then as you observe this. How I love to see this type of unconditional, loving companionship between man and animals. How joyful and adorable this is to watch. I cannot stop smiling. And once you've done something along these lines or said something like this to yourself, see if you can weave in an entirely new scenario. For instance, how fun would it be if all over the world this was recognized as a natural part of our society? And how much joy I can see lying ahead for all of those people, especially children, in countries that have not yet experienced the love that may come from being in a respectful and friendly relationship with an animal. And how wonderfully these children will grow up as they cherish the memory of these interactions. They may become earth speakers or animal whisperers and who knows what. And maybe one day these words may be actual functions in what we will call our quote-unquote politics by then. And we will know who our political representatives are, as they will most likely be more small-scale systems. Though all united in an overall deeper understanding worldwide of how valuable and unique we all are. And we may laugh together about the distant memories of how it used to be. And our houses will be green and self-powered on small-scale free energy grids. And as I picture the children playing outside on the streets that are safe and lush with plants, I can see the day turn into night gently, and the solar charged tree lights lighting up, glimmering like fireflies in the slowly increasing dark. And the insects start singing louder, and so do the birds. And they do so in their sacred songs, each dusk and dawn, singing praise to the earth as the humans grow silent to enjoy this daily orchestra. And then suddenly your mind drifts from this scenario and will return you with your focus to sitting in the park. And you notice that the lady calls out to her dogs one more time as she gets ready to leave. And you smile at her and she smiles at you. And in your own mind, you thank her for inspiring you in that moment to build a whole new world out of that single here and now. And she may never know. And as you did this, you laid out a blueprint level version reality of Earth that actually contains these elements already, or some of these and more that are even beyond your imagination at this point. And so you took a little, hardly noticeable railway track, a little preview, the energy frequency of the moment wherein you were observing the lady, who was playing with her dogs, and you stretched it out and amplified it 1,000-fold into a fully adult railway track for the future, as you would say. And you did this by taking some loose and seemingly unrelated ideas that were simply on the same energy wavelength as you personally saw in the dogs playing in the park. And you simply tied them together for as long as it felt fun to do so. And this is how you can use your focus to build the blueprint level of our world you envision. And by repeating this idea, you build momentum. And by acting on it in the best way possible, you build even more momentum. You ground it, you anchor it into your physical reality. And this momentum will be reflected back to you by more little railway tracks or energetically matching previews, so to speak, that will come into your awareness to show you how you've shifted and to invite you to dive even deeper into that particular vibration. And also, they will appear to you to double check if this really is what you prefer. Remember, there is no built-in meaning, and it's up to you how you respond. So you have a choice. You always have a choice. Now, as you walk home from the park, you may see a billboard to your right that you did not notice before, promoting solar energy. And you may look into someone's house and see children dancing and singing together. And when you come home, perhaps there's a folder on your doormat. And when you open it up, you see it is a new time schedule sent to you by the local public transport provider. And their logo, you notice for the very first time, just happens to be a train track splitting and ending in a sunset. Now, you're so happy because of all of these wonderful synchronicities, underlining the energy frequency that you planted like a little seed and watered abundantly in the park as you were watching the woman and the dogs. That now, when you go on your computer and you start up a program or you tune in with your social media, you may read about a project that asks people to support them in a crowdfund to grow, for instance, a forest in an area that otherwise might turn into a desert. And you may feel inspired to donate some money to them to help build this project, simply because you're on the energy wavelength of wanting to act, of wanting to contribute, to ground the energy frequency of that wonderful momentum that you have built for yourself. And we say, for those who've learned to look, this may all just seem a random coincidence, but for those of you who know how to see, you will know that all of this is your grander self in action, winking at you, letting you know that you have increased the momentum of a whole new set of possibilities to become probabilities for you in one way or another, inspiring you to act upon and line up more and more in thoughts, words, and deeds with what you say you wish to see more of in your version of the world. And you will find that you will allow into your conscious awareness more and more and more effortless opportunities to continue to build on the energy frequency wavelength of that little seed that you have just watered. So it goes on and on and on. And that's what we mean with momentum. And the more you anchor that in your world, in your thoughts, words, and deeds, all of them count, in your attitudes and beliefs, the more you will increase the probability of one day waking up and finding all of that present, solidified, and manifested, all quote-unquote around you. But it will be only because you have allowed it to manifest within you first. Now, this is what we wanted to share with you most strongly in this here and now. And we wish you the most extraordinary ride on this wave in the ocean of all that is possible for you. We send to all of you our unconditional love and are looking forward to speak to you soon again.
Are you all my personal dreams?